Serious, therapists, psychologists, and other mental health workers. What internet behavior do you find concerning? Comparison. One of the greatest challenges of so many young adults I work with is the over-comparison to false projections of people through social media. The interesting thing is that most can cognitively acknowledge that the comparison is unfair or inaccurate, but it doesn't change the ultimate outcome of feeling crappy about themselves. Comparison is the thief of joy was one of my great-grandmother's favorite sayings. The other was he won't buy the cow if he can get the milk for free, but that's less relevant right now. Habitual scrolling is concerning. When a person cannot stop scrolling even though they want to, it causes anxiety. It's a very addictive and harmful habit. People say it wastes time and makes them anxious, yet they just can't stop. It harms a person's sense of self-efficacy, their "I can do this" attitude. Any addiction hurts a person's sense of can do because they're constantly engaged in something they don't want to be. It takes time away from productive or healthy activities. I've heard people say days pass them by. I think it's gotten much worse since COVID too. One of our fundamental psychological needs is acceptance. Unfortunately, the internet and social media in particular has made it easy to find unhealthy acceptance. In a normal practice, we work on skills to improve self-acceptance with the idea that accepting yourself will reap immense benefits. Increased self-worth and self-esteem, less fear of failure, increased autonomy, and reduced anxiety. With the internet, there's a shortcut to self-acceptance, and that is finding communities that will accept you if you conform to an easy standard. Post the right words, photos, and project the right image, and you'll gain instant and widespread acceptance. The problem is that this flimsy acceptance doesn't improve any other part of your life since you still lack self-acceptance, and it goes away quickly. And of course the groups that provide the biggest, warmest acceptance are often toxic groups. Toxic fandoms, hate groups, and cults have always preyed on those with low self-acceptance, but their reach now is obviously greater and it's simple for them to find and recruit new members. So I'm always on high alert if someone I'm working with starts using social media acceptance as a substitute for working on their own self-acceptance. The terms friends or connections is also, I believe, used to further create these fake acceptance. Social worker here. Overuse of the word addiction. Also, people putting all their identity into a mental health issue. People are more than their diagnosis. Over-identifying with a mental health diagnosis can make it difficult for the person to get help. People overusing things like depression and anxiety when they are actually sad or nervous. Same with OCD and bipolar. It makes it hard for people who actually have depression and anxiety to be recognized and get the help and support they need. It minimizes the pain people experience who have OCD and who have bipolar disorder. These things suck and making light of it is just not appropriate. People posting several selfies a day and filming themselves singing while driving. Social media allows for unhealthy and unrealistic expectations of others, and provides individuals with unhealthy, disingenuous acceptance. It fosters a culture of the more I post, the more I'll be accepted, when in reality we can work with these individuals to discover self-love and healthy acceptance. Also, filming yourself while driving is dangerous. Genuinely agree, especially the last sentence. I would really enjoy seeing tickets handed out on a federal level, because we don't know for sure the jurisdiction, for people operating their phones and driving, then posting the proof on the internet. It's a dangerous freaking trend. Online presences and how easy it is to hide crap from your parents, which obviously opens you up to predation. In my second year as a doctor, I dealt with a distraught 15-year-old who had made a suicide pact with a boy she met online through Overwatch. This boy never showed a picture or spoke on voice, but apparently they had become soulmates and she sent him pics, talked to him daily, etc. Parents, understandably, freaked when they found out and tried to get her to cut contact, so the presumed 45-year-old on the other end said he was gonna kill himself. Seriously made me consider moving to an island with no internet when I have my kids. Therapist here. I worry a lot about teen girls, who are increasingly exposed to unrealistic standards of beauty, and who are increasingly vulnerable to exploitation. It was bad when I was a teen back in the early 2000s, but it seems to just be getting worse. I find the whole echo chamber effect and people's unwillingness to engage with views that are not their own in a meaningful way troubling. It causes people to move towards tribalism, which threatens our social fabric. For instance, I have been banned from both a right-wing subreddit and a left-wing sub for simply trying to have a conversation about right and left-wing subjects. That kind of moderation may drive up usage because people's views are never challenged and they don't have to consider another person's position. In the age of social media, the profit motive has caused the death of empathy. That we are replacing our deep in-person connections with surface online connections, parasocial versus dyadic relationships, warping our sense of beauty, happiness, and well-being to sell things, making advertisements not seem like advertising. That we are replacing our deep in-person connections with surface online connections. With COVID we don't have much choice right now. However, we are realizing how lonely social isolation is and how Zoom is not cutting it for kids in school. I sure hope things turn out for the better after the pandemic ends. I know it'll not be perfect, but still. All of these people self-diagnosing mental health disorders. I can't tell you how many people I've had in my office say I think I have X or I'm pretty sure my partner is X because they saw a TikTok of ADHD bipolar narcissism symptoms. I have tactile sensory disorder, diagnosed by multiple doctors, and people have called me a fraud and a liar because I am not like all those other people who have self-diagnoses of the same thing. Just about everything already listed here, but my personal peeve is online dating. Online dating, especially the currently most popular swiping apps, completely breaks how our brains work in terms of attraction. Warning, oversimplifications ahead, take with a grain of salt. As many others have noted, if the dating app is successful, it's probably going to lose users, so they have very little motivation to work. We automatically place ourselves on a scale of 1-10 in terms of attractiveness and try to find someone on the same number or slightly higher based on availability bias. Awesome. Here's a million carefully selected pictures of people who are available. Your bias gets skewed way off. People generally like one another based off shared experiences, interests, values, whatever. Great. Here's a list of a million people. Hey, you've got a 99% match. But this one doesn't like dogs. And this one doesn't support $15 HR. And this one only likes social board games. So you start getting way too picky. You have no shared experiences prior to meeting. And you make snap judgments based off highly biased limited information. Anyone who marks their profile woman is likely to get absolutely flooded with messages. Anyone marking man is likely to have to send out literally hundreds per success. Marking anywhere in between non-binary is just a complete crap show. It's sexism of the dating process turned up to 11, and it sucks for everyone involved. Previous case manager here. An over-normalization of mental illness. There is a large difference between having diagnosed anxiety, depression, bipolar, and feeling anxious, feeling depressed, and having some mood swings. So many have self-diagnosed because it's now so over-normalized that it's the new cool thing. It's unfortunately become little more than a means of gaining more attention and empathy. It's such a delegitimizing behavior that undermines people with actual mental health issues. Mental health conditions are not something cool or something to be sought out. They are things people struggle with daily, and when other people purposefully use them as a means of gaining attention, it becomes an insult to them and their struggles. I see this opinion a lot from people, and it often gets dismissed if it's not coming from someone who works in mental health. It's nice to see someone with experience express this opinion, because I completely agree. The simplification of very serious and complex topics because of things like Twitter hot takes and those topics being funneled through memes. It makes people think they have it figured out, and then they think opposition is wrong, deplorable, evil, whatever word you want to use. Generalizations are way too common, and it does a disservice to everyone to pretend that individuals with their own upbringing and perspective don't exist. I'm just some freaking guy though. I'm not anything the title suggests. Love this comment. Psych nurse here. There are a number of concerning behaviors involving the internet. The one that concerns me is seeing the way people will spend hours or days defending a topic or opinion they have, back and forth bickering and name calling. whereas I rule that disagreement would have ended very quickly or not even been addressed at all. Because people don't generally disrespect others' beliefs or outlooks that way in person, it causes anxiety in both parties, waiting for a reply, trying to come up with a smart remark, checking out from real-life conversations to be consumed by an internet argument. It is detrimental to our minds to be trolls or be dragged in by a troll. People that take simple comments, "I don't like that movie, I have this opinion instead of that one," etc. personal and attack you for them. Something must really suck in their lives if they come to a boiling point over something so trivial. I'm honestly worried about them sometimes. Not having the same tastes is not a bad thing. For example, if we got 2 donuts regular and with chocolate, if we differ in tastes and we got them in front of us, it's all good. You get what you like and I do as well. We both are happy. From my perspective as a social worker, all of the echo chamber groups for anxiety, depression, mental problems, where the members share a lot of private information just to be seen and heard, and they usually get the others members' solutions, which is formed through meetings with the healthcare system and personal experiences. That is scary if people are suicidal, have severe diagnoses or are getting into psychosis. I have seen a dangerously anti-recovery mindset in grief support groups. Personally, the idea almost that one should never get over or get past a loss grief, and that it is impossible to, and that anyone who ever suggests it is a horrible monster, does not seem healthy. People being vile, rude, insulting, extreme etc. because they can say things to other people they would never say face to face. This weird trend of pictures with text over them claiming some new mental health issue. The latest one I've seen being today I learned people with anxiety rewatch the same TV shows over and over, which led to everybody on my timeline self-diagnosing themselves with an anxiety disorder. Everybody wants to diagnose themselves and other people, but nobody wants to share resources for therapy, etc. The memification of mental health. Making light of a diagnosis can be useful in certain contexts as a coping mechanism, but when my crippling depression has become a meme, it isn't doing individuals who actually have severe depression that cripples their quality of life any justice. I'm sure in many cases it does speak to genuine mental health experiences people are having. I just think there needs to be some caution and awareness when making comments or posts about mental health that are a joke before they are an attempt at coping. Express yourself or reach out for help. Yup, it makes me feel much less alone in my diagnosis, but I also have to remember that if the people were really as depressed as they were saying in posts, they likely wouldn't be able to find the joy in making the meme, or the energy to make it. Alright Reddit, you won't want to hear this, but too much pornography really isn't good for you, and the internet makes it so accessible. It's a real problem for so many people. Put your phone down and spend some time on a hobby or with real people. Sincerely, a psychologist. Overstating harm done to them and underplaying their own role in interpersonal conflicts. This is most epitomized in subreddits like Our Relationship Advice or Our Am With Our Soul, but common in every corner of the internet, where people seek validation by claiming victimhood in their relationships while not mentioning the bad things they're doing to contribute to this unhealthy dynamic. It's always I'm being abused, manipulated, harassed, and rarely I want to learn, grow and do better. This leads to people never improving themselves, developing self-control, or examining themselves or their actions critically. This is terrible behavior that would lead to long-term unhappiness and dissatisfaction, and no one is willing to call out this crappy behavior online in case of an actual abusive relationship, which does need intervention. It's messed up all around. I am a provider for adolescents in an inpatient setting. More and more parents in the past 2 years are reporting that their children watch bestiality. At first I thought they meant something like animated furry pee. While in some cases this is true, others really mean actual bestiality pee. I don't know what's happening with this generation. I'd bet dollars to donuts that it's SFM animations that parents aren't distinguishing from real life. The amount of realistic and fully voice-acted bestiality animations online has just exploded in the last few years. Deegans are living in a golden age right now. I met someone who's currently studying psychology and has taken social media classes. She said that it's worrying how people get addicted to their following and will do anything to keep it. For example, when TikTok was at risk for being cancelled last year, there were so many users with large followings who went into a panic. attempting to get every one of their followers to follow them on other platforms, which didn't work. So they go into a bigger panic, where they're yelling it out in every video. It gave me a lot of perspective on how easily one could be sucked into all that. STLL student. Definitely the bubbles of radicalization and confirmation bias. Most people don't look or subscribe at what they don't agree with. That's how religion and cults work. Believing you know the truth because you have read 1000 articles, books and seen countless shows about it doesn't give you a clear view on it. It's also the case if you look at both sides of the aisle. Some side will always attract you more. One way to counter that is to assume everybody is right in some way. Using logic, it's impossible to have the full picture about something. There are only parts. Nothing is true. Normalizing not doing anything about mental health concerns that are treatable and or that realistic lifestyle chances could help with. Being complacent about suffering is basically a meme at this point, and a lot of vulnerable people are seeing that and receiving the message to give up. 1. The often rough tone on the internet, e.g. insults. Just go and KLL yourself. How easy it is to bully harass someone online. 2. The normalization of heavily edited photos and the permanent exposure to curated lives online, which has such a negative impact on mental health. Even people who are aware of social media's fakeness can't often escape the negative impact on their mental health. 1. People who take the internet too seriously, to the point where they are legitimately angry and proceed to belittle, troll and harass you. 2. People who do something wrong, then begin an all-out campaign against you and or the community. 3. Similar to the above, when someone breaks a tiny rule and gets told no to, then throws a fit and acts like the community is super strict. 2 and 3 are obvious signs of a spoiled brat who has never been told no in their life. I've seen people do too many times. Once some girl got into a fight with another girl on this site. Then, one of the second girl's friends began commenting on every single one of the first girl's posts, saying what an awful human being she is. It was really fricked, and I blocked the other girl immediately. Hate, general rudeness, and the spread of misinformation. It can really mess with someone's perception of the world and their overall mental and physical health. I'm a child and family therapist working mostly with teens. I really wish I could just remove social media from existence entirely. I see kids who are 8 or 9 using Instagram and Facebook. You can blame the parents, but it's so pervasive now that it has to be acknowledged as a general issue rather than just bad parenting. Whatever I have kids, I'm going to do whatever I can to delay their entrance into social media as long as possible. These are the words of my psychologist friend. The dominance of America over social media. I'm aware this may offend some Americans, but I'm going to talk anyway. America is fricked up at the moment and their horror show is plastered all over social media. It's rubbing off on other countries and it's worrying. I agree. Like everyone assume that every social media user is American. Like there are people living outside of America also. Things such as isolating in communities that try to cut down or manipulate information so it can satisfy their thrill-seeking crap. Conspiracy theories are cool and funny, but some people can take it way too far. Sleep deficit. Not entirely an internet behavior, but I know way too many teens who stay up till 2 AM playing games or watching streams, etc. It appears as if not sleeping enough is a cool thing. Granting more time on the internet, for sure supported by computers who want your attention entirely on them. It isn't. We don't sleep several hours a day for no reason. So please keep those, at least usually. Obsession about consuming without producing is troublesome, particularly if your self-care suffers. A person who is on the computer 15 hours a day creating is okay, but someone who is just watching videos, looking at pure gaming 15 hours a day would be a cause for concern. And P addiction is proving to be the single biggest contributing factor to sexual dysfunction in couples. I'd love to see a source on the P addiction one. Anecdotally, while I have seen P addiction cases, they are definitely not the majority of dysfunction cases I see. The delete after view apps or the ones that only keep short conversation logs always concern me the most when I hear kids mentioning they actively use those for sexual exploitation, bullying, or everything in between. People give mental health advice on relationship subs while taking what is posted at face value. Some of you do that even when the OP admits to having mental health issues. People with certain types of mental health issues do not have an accurate view of reality. Giving them advice based on their post is dangerous. I'm still just an intern, but for me it is how easily people can be sucked into toxic extensions of themselves. Not to mention how easy it is to argue and insult someone you have never seen and will never meet. The echoing chambers that different communities provide just allows for extreme versions of those reasonable beliefs to breathe life. It's happened to me and lots of people I know. I don't think people realize how that stress of always fighting or looking for the person to yell at can influence their mental health. The internet has allowed for compromise to be written off, which is a huge problem in the real world. Groupthink. The divide and isolation created by not being able to think outside of your in-group is very dangerous. This is how the Holocaust began, and many good people just followed along committing egregious acts. This one shocks me the most, and I mentioned it earlier today. Things are becoming like the 1930s all over again. Might already be mentioned here, I'm a therapist working with teenagers and I've only become privy to this recently, but all the TikTok accounts showcasing mental health symptoms for views, likes, namely for tic disorder to ATTs and dissociative identity disorder. Yes, this makes me super uncomfortable myself as someone with recently diagnosed it. I was looking for resources to feel less alone, but I just don't feel comfortable running a TikTok about my alters. Like, I have did BC of horrible childhood trauma. I don't really see it as a fun thing to do, IDK. How fake people are on social media, myself included. I find the socialization process so intriguing, but it's so complex. It's different for everyone, yet we all are conditioned to get on Instagram and look good, show good food, and have good scenery pics. Pornography available to watch by people of any age. If consenting adults want to make or watch it, that's their business, but it should not be viewed by minors. Shaming for not acting, writing, posting in one particular way. I don't qualify for any of those, but one thing I find concerning is when someone fails to differentiate themselves from the internet and real life, like adopting an anonymous persona and spending time on social media all the time while failing to realize what's going on in your life. I feel like it's a form of seeking validation from someone or something when you don't need it. IDK, someone smarter can comment if this makes sense. Online echo chambers led to people with some very odd beliefs feeling supported. The incels are a prime example. I know what spree killers in the warm-up stage look like. The old incel sub was just a mass of red flags. I hope the FBI monitors everyone that posted on it. Normally you bump into a few dozen people in your lifetime that you'd share your beliefs with, and they'd soon put you straight about how messed up you are. The odds of meeting a sympathizer would be very low, so your lunacy isn't reinforced. It's kind of like herd immunity containing the crazy, but now with the internet they can network. Same principle applies to terrorism. Late to the party, but the access everyone has to each other is super concerning. People knowing where you are at all time because of geotags, SnapMap, etc. Lots of folks are super desensitized to this, especially if they've grown up with it. But man, is it concerning how easily someone could track your every move. I would say overuse of the term toxic. No, toxic positivity isn't toxic. It is usually just well-intentioned but lacking emotional depth. It isn't deliberately harmful or with long-term effects. As a mental health clinician, LMSW, for the last 3 years, the most concerning trend I see is people airing out their life stories on social media. It almost always leads to more issues. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.